when I won Female Vocalist in '96,
wow. Yeah.
Emory was recovering, and he wasn't able again to be at the show. And when I won that award, you know, Roger was not in good health. And of course, we'd lost our sister, and we all were going through a lot of emotions.
Sure.
So, y'all, that's why I guess I sing the way I do.
Yeah.
And, you know, the songs I sing, it's about my life.
We are here to celebrate the opening of Patty Loveless' No Trouble with the Truth. Yes. I hope you've had time to go see the exhibit, but if you haven't, please do, because if you're a Patty Loveless fan, you're going to learn things. Even if you're a hardcore fan, you're going to learn some things in the exhibit that you might not have known. So, you know, we've had an outstanding week here celebrating Patty, and you know, it's rare to have open an exhibit the same within weeks of inducting someone into the Country Music Hall of Fame. So we've asked a lot of Patty. She's been so outstanding and generous with her time that we've all just, you know, all through the museum, every department is like, they are the best people to work for, and it's true. So, you know, usually at this point I would say a lot of flowery words about how great and distinctive Patty Loveless is, which is all true, but I thought a better way that we might do that is just bring her out and let her sing. She's with some people that have been with her for a long time who love her. Carmella Ramsey, Deanie Richardson, and Jedd Hughes. So please welcome Patty Loveless.
All right, enough about me. Now let's get to the songs. How about it? She left the car in the driveway. She left the key in the door. She left the kids at her mama's, and the laundry piled up on the floor. She left her ring on the pillow, right where it wouldn't be missed. She left a note in the kitchen next to the grocery list. It said, "You don't even know who I am. You left me a long time ago. You don't even know who I am. So why do you care if I go?" He left the ring on the pillow. He left the clothes on the floor. and he called her to say he was sorry, but he couldn't remember what for. So he said, I've been doing some thinking. I've been thinking maybe you're right. I go to work every morning, then I come home to you every night. And you don't even know who I am. You left me a long time ago. You don't even know who I am. So why do I care if you go? You don't even know who I am. So why do I care if you go? Just go.
I've done a couple of interviews with Patty this week. You're going to want to hear their stories. There are stories I think her greatest fans have probably never heard, because we're going to talk a lot, especially about her early life, growing up in coal country, working with the Wilburn brothers and Porter Wagner, her time in North Carolina, which is sort of, Patty Loveless, the missing years, and how she came back to Nashville and just, took all that experience that she'd been through before that, and I think just became one of the great country singers of all time, which is why, yes, absolutely, which is why she's going to be the 151st member of the Country Music Hall of Fame in a few weeks. You think of that number, 151, and think of all the people who've been in country music country music started over a century ago, and the thousands and thousands of people who contributed to it. And that is the most exclusive club in country music, and as she just proved, she absolutely belongs there. So. I'm going to tell you, y'all are going to enjoy this so much. Will you help me welcome Patty Loveless back to the stage? That was fast. That's so good.
Sounds like a mother you were telling about Stephen.
I know, yeah. So.
Y'all have a seat now.
It's been quite a week, hasn't it, Patty?
It's been wonderful.
Yeah.
But, woo!
Yeah, we're at the end of
We've
it.
been going.
Yeah, no, we've
He's been going too, y'all. We've been planning this for months now.
Yeah, yes. We started maybe
This
a year or
whole
so.
week.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time getting ready. And that's part of what I want to say is in that time, there has never been another artist who's been more generous with their time, more engaging with us. When we had questions, you and your great manager, Mike Robertson, were right back with us. The artifacts you gave us. Patty went down to Patty's house in Dallas, Georgia with a small crew of us, Mick Buck and Jack Clutter and Kathleen Boyle. And Patty stayed with us the whole time, which has never been my experience with artists. Nobody's done that before. Sometimes they've come in and spent some time with us, but you stayed there the whole time, gave us stories about everything you gave us, and it's a day I'll always cherish.
That's just the way I am, Michael.
I know that. I know that. So,
I mean, and Emory calls it micromanaging. He said, let everybody else do it. I said, no, you don't understand.
Yeah. And
they have to have guidance, so,
but it's also
like you do.
Right. It's also your heart, though. I think
Yeah,
your heart.
It
your
was a
heart
pleasure
is,
to have you all there.
Yes.
And you could have stayed all night if you wanted.
Well, now you tell us. Anyway, I know we've got a lot of ground to cover because you've had such a great career, and we've got an hour or so to do it. So, first, I want to show there's a video from 1995, the peak of your career, and I think will kind of remind people of what your status was and how beloved you were in the music industry at the time. It's from the CMA Awards in 1995. So let's let everybody see that. So.
Okay.
The album of the year award goes to When the Fallen Angels Fly, Patty Loveless.
Oh my goodness. I really and truly did not expect this. I was among some wonderful artists that have worked very, very hard themselves, and I didn't expect it, no. There's a lot of people I would like to thank, and one of them especially, who is responsible for the music to this album and put a lot of work into it. He's not here with me tonight because he's at work right now. Mr. Emory Gordy Jr., my producer and my husband. I'm sure that he's about to fall over too. Also, I'd like to thank my label, Epic Records, some wonderful people, my management, Larry Fitzgerald and Mark Hartley, Dan Waters, my road manager, and my band. We've all worked real hard at putting the music out there in front of the people, and especially the fans and 2 Radio. Thank y'all so much. Thank you.
Yeah. You know, there were 3 other Hall of Fame members in that list. You know? So, Vince and George Strait,
George
Alan
Strait.
Jackson, all who were sweeping award shows in those days. So I'm guessing if I'd have put some money in Las Vegas, on the chances of you winning, I could have retired. But.
You know, it was so much pressure. I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah.
And to be up against the likes of George Strait, Vince, Alan Jackson, and I was the only woman.
Yeah.
Pressure.
Yeah.
And you know, yes, Emory wasn't there that night. He was in the studio working on something else. I was trying to remember what artist he was working on at that point. He was done with me at that point. But, well, not forever. But the gentleman I was sitting with is a very dear, close friend of mine. Everybody thought it was my husband.
Yeah.
When I was there sitting on, is this your husband? I said, no, this is Chuck Flood. Chuck Flood was my business manager from 1990 on. And the last time I saw him was in April when it was announced for the Hall of Fame. He was so excited. And I went by to see him, and we spent 2.5 hours together. We were close. We were friends. He was 78. He was like my big brother. And always taking care of my money, making sure I didn't spend too much. Only things that were necessary. But Chuck was always taking care of me, always had my back. And I lost him. I lost him because I knew his family and everyone, the whole Flood, Bumstead, and McCready, Effie, and they built a big business. And Chuck passed away with cancer July 21st. So, yeah. And it was unknown. He was not diagnosed till 2 months prior to that. We think that he had been suffering with it, and it was just not diagnosed yet. Yeah. So
It's good to have him here
that
as
was
part
wonderful.
of this.
That's
Yes.
the reason I wanted to
Yeah.
share that story,
Yeah.
because he meant so much to
Right.
me. And he, it takes a lot of people. It's not just you out there, but it takes a lot of people behind you that you trust, taking care of things that you don't have the time to no more. What you got to do is get out there and think about entertaining, and don't think about what's behind you. You got to trust. And I had some great people behind me, always, like my brother, Roger Ramey. So
Yes.
that's where it began.
Yeah. So, and in business managers, if there's any shady part of the music business, the rest of it's not. But
Yeah, some of them might run off with your money.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it has happened.
I've heard those stories
Yeah,
before.
it has happened. So that trust. Yeah. So,
No.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You mentioned Emory, and just let's take this moment to talk about what he meant to your music and
Emory?
yes.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Where do I begin? Maybe I should back up all the way when I was born.
No, this
serious.
is a great story. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Well, when we got together, he told me this story. And what happened was, he was probably about 12 years old, and this was in 1957. So, and this was in June of 1957, and the family, his mom and dad, he was an only child. His mom and dad said, we're going on a trip, we're going to take the ride. And Emory's like, I don't want to go, because we go to the same places, just across the state line and all that. And so his mama says, well, where do you want to go? He says, oh, I want to go to Pikeville, Kentucky. He loved the music of the Stanley Brothers. He wanted to learn banjo from Earl. He was learning to play guitar like Lester Flatt. He loved Bill Monroe, but it was just that area up where I come from is where the Stanley Brothers are from. So, and Molly O'Day, all that, and Carter family. So, 12 years old, his mom and dad takes him through Pikeville, Kentucky.
That's amazing.
And guess what? I was born January 4th, 1957. And he comes along at 12 years old, comes through there. And I was 6 months old by that time. Did he rob the cradle or what? But anyhow, he told me that story when we got together and started making music and everything. And when he actually told me, I said, he's good at making up some good stories sometimes. And he kind of jerks you around a little bit. Did you really mean that? So I asked his mom, I said, is that true? She said, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And we did come through there in that year,
Yeah.
when he was 12. So the reason I tell that story is because when I came back to Nashville from North Carolina, I returned back to Nashville to continue my dream. And in 1985, I came back, but 1986 is when Tony Brown and Emory were working with me. And it's when my brother Roger, we had done a demo of 5 songs, and a gentleman by the name of Daniel Shue sponsored us.
Yeah.
Daniel was a sweetheart. I mean, Waylon Jennings, all of them had so much respect for Daniel. He was the one that had the Wax Museum. And Roger ended up working, when I left Nashville the first time, ended up working for Daniel at the Wax Museum and other.
We've been trying to find Daniel.
That whole
Yeah.
16th Avenue around there, y'all, it was nothing but little shops and just unbelievable wax figures, and it's not a shoe store. There's a shoe store over there now. But that block has so changed since the 70s. But anyway, back to my story of 1986. So Roger takes the demo into MCA Records at Tony Brown. And the receptionist that was taking people in thought that this Roger was Tony's appointment, and it wasn't. He wasn't. I'm telling you, Roger could sell ice to the Eskimos. But knowing his nervous energy and everything, he was scared, but he did it. So with a lot of courage, and there's the picture of Roger and me, that trip we came back when I did the demo. And Roger managed to slide through, and he's like a little Tasmanian devil when he goes through a place. He was zooming through, and the assistant says, Tony, your first appointment's here. All right, sit him in. So Roger just goes in. Tony turns around and goes, you're not my appointment. And this is what, Tony, I think, tells it a little bit different than I do, but Roger told me. And Roger, I can see him shaking now. I wasn't there because I was back in North Carolina waiting on whatever he did for me and to make anything happen, please. But anyway, Tony says, look, you're not on my appointment. And Roger says, well, I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't listen to this tape, you're going to miss out on the best girl singer you ever heard in your life. And Roger meant it. And Tony goes, all right, you got one song. So Roger had already queued up the song I Did, because it was real traditional, and that's what they were looking for.
The name of the song was I Did, yeah.
Yeah, the name of the song was I Did. And I did Sounds of Loneliness. That was another song I wrote, but he queued it up to I Did because it was very traditional sounding. Randy Travis, the Judds, all were doing more traditional type music because that's what drew me back, the interest. Because I was rock and rolling too long. I was ready to come back back into the country. But and I was excited that it was happening. And Tony listened to I Did, and then he says, all right. He sits back, and then he listens to the next song, and then he listens to the next song, and then he asks Roger, he stopped, and he goes, where's she from? He goes, she's in North Carolina right now. So Tony said, okay. Then Tony listened to the other two songs. And then after it was all said and done, it was, so nice to meet you. When can we get her here? And Roger says, I can try to fly her in from North Carolina. And he did, because with the support and help of Daniel Shue. And because we hardly could afford anything. And so after Roger was gone, Tony and Emory both were on A&R there and producing records, and even on the outskirts of MCA. And they were working for Jimmy Bowen, too. Jimmy Bowen was the president at that time. Well, anyway, Tony calls up Emory. They're old buddies, musician buddies, out on the road together.
They're in Elvis's band together.
Elvis,
right?
and Emmy Lou and Roseanne Cash. And so they called him in. And Emory started, and this is why the Pikeville story. So Emory's listening to it. He goes, Tony, where's she from? Tony says, North Carolina, thinking it was North Carolina.
Yeah.
And Emory, this is the God's truth. I'd swear on a stack of Bibles. That Emory says to Tony, you know, Tony, it sounds like she's from Pikeville, Kentucky. I'm being honest. Being honest, y'all. No trouble with the truth. So that's how it came about, and then voila, I ended up getting a singles deal at first. They were going to try me out first, see how it does.
That's common back then.
Yeah, and we released Lonely Days and Lonely Nights, and then they released Lonely Days and Lonely Nights went into the 40s. I remember Reba saying, well, I wish my first single went into 40s that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Has she ever
Right.
told?
Right.
But anyway, she told me that.
Yeah.
And then we released I Did, the more traditional, and radio was going nuts about it. People were going nuts and calling. But what happened was I got called into a meeting with Jimmy Bowen, the president of MCA. And he goes, look, we got a lot we're sending out. Because, you know, they had other artists in line. And I guess that knowing that this song was so strong, it ended up getting me an album deal. And Bowen says, we want to do an album, a whole album. And I was like, he goes, but here's the only problem. We've got to pull the single. I was torn, y'all. I was so torn. But I think I was excited to do an album and nervous at the same time. But I understood it because to me that was telling me they think they see potential here.
We got something.
That we
Yeah.
could sell albums.
Yeah.
So lo and behold, later on, the Patty Loveless debut.
Right.
And all those songs ended up on that album.
Right. But it killed the single in the long run, where it could have climbed the charts.
Later on, but you know, when we released it again, it didn't do as well as, you know.
Because people had already...
The momentum
Yeah.
was already
Right.
going.
Right. So-
But when I did the Opry, I did that song, I had to sing it 3 times, 3 encores.
So they did, fans do it already.
First time I did it on the Opry, 3 encores.
So, great. Wow.
That's unheard of
I know,
on the
I
Opry
know.
because you do 2
Yeah,
songs.
yeah.
This next song is one that it was on my Honky Tonk Angel album, 1989. And I'm not going to say another word. I'm just going to do the song. Well, it seems that everyone we've known, their love's grown cold, while ours stand as strong. One by one they break, it's such a shame. And now you say you wanna do the same, and don't toss us away so thoughtlessly. It just ain't right. Oh, can't you see? I still love you. I want you to stay. And darling, please don't toss us away. How could all those years be tossed away in just one moment, in just one day? One by one they break, it's such a shame. And now you say you wanna do the same, and don't toss us away. It just ain't right to let love die without a fight. I still love you. I want you to stay. And darling, please don't toss us away. So now
Now I'm asking once again to understand, to be my friend. How could all those years be tossed away in just one moment, in just one day? And don't toss us away, it just ain't right to let love die without a fight. I still love you, I want you to stay. Darling, please don't toss us away. Oh, darling, please. Don't toss us away. Thank you.
We're going to talk a little bit more
Okay.
on that album and move on, but I think we should go back and start to how you got to that place. So let's go back to Elkhorn
wow.
City, and you know, your family has deep roots in Kentucky and coal mining.
Well, the last house we lived in before we ended up moving to Louisville, Kentucky, was in Elkhorn City, and Elkhorn City, Kentucky. And I was going to Elkhorn Elementary, but it was Elkhorn Elementary and High School. But yeah, so this house, there is a picture of my family in front of this house. It's mom, dad, my youngest brother on a tricycle, my middle brother Mike, and daddy and mom. I think mom's like in a house dress. I guess they used to call them house dresses rather than not house coats. But anyway, that picture is of that house, and that when I was going to school, elementary, I was always singing around the yard and doing all that kind of stuff, and I was a real shy kid. And Mama would invite people to the house, and I would run off into the kitchen and sing as loud as I could so I wouldn't have to stand in front of them and sing, because I'd be shaking like crazy. Sometimes I still am. So, and from that, you know, in school, I had a really wonderful friend, Jeffrey Ratcliffe, and we spent a lot of time together. And so in school, I remember one time that you used to have to wait for the bus on the school grounds. And that was high school and elementary kids. And it was this big, huge ground. And all the buses would show up, and you'd have to stand in line. My brother Mike was always going, "You got to stand in line." Sometimes I'd go run off and play in the creek that was over on the far. I did. Yeah. And but I had to go to the restroom, so I snuck out with my friend Jeffrey, and we went to the girls' room. And I just let out start singing, you know, whatever. Probably sound like a choked chicken. To the teacher that come run, because the teachers were still there. They didn't leave till all the students were gone. So I disrupted a teacher, and she was like, "What do you think you're doing?" And I said, "Singing, sort of." She goes, I said, "It sounds good in here," in the bathroom. And because I love that effect. So she's like, "Well, don't do it anymore." And Jeffrey goes, "You got me in trouble." And I said, "We're okay. I won't do it again." So, and I didn't. But then a lot of the other stuff that went on at that school, Daddy, I was give us lunch money for the week. And it was hard. So what I would do, there was this little old store that a lot of the teenagers at the high school, it was just right across the road where the buses came through. And during lunch, I would pop over to that store and spend my lunch money in the jukebox. Well, I missed out on eating lunch. So Daddy found out about it, and he goes, "Little girl, now, you know what? I don't give you that money to be spending on playing records. That money is to feed you." But I wanted to say, "Daddy, but the music's feeding me." But, I just had that hunger for, and so I didn't no more. I said, "Daddy, it won't happen no more, I promise." And what happened was, I went back to eating my lunch. But while waiting on the bus, I'd run over to the store, and the teenagers were putting money in the jukebox, and I'd hear everything from Elvis to the Monkees to whatever was popular in the 60s, the latter part of the 60s, Patsy Cline, Merle Haggard, George Jones, and I mean, it had everything on that jukebox. And I was just like absorbing it all. And I guess that's why some of the music that I do to this day, I mean, Otis Redding, Percy Sledge, it was on that jukebox. It was on that jukebox.
Yeah. So you heard great music.
Yeah, and I had older brothers and sisters that loved country music, but then I had an older brother that was into the 50s rock and roll and 60s, but Roger was too. Yeah. Roger loved all kinds of music, but country was his big love. Loretta and George Jones and Patsy Cline and also my sister Dottie. And that's what the kind of music they did. But they did some of the pop stuff, for fun. And I learned a lot from all of them. That's where I got the music from before we ended up in Louisville.
That's great. And you mentioned Jeffrey. I just want to say he's a little bit too big to ride a trike now because he's here. And,
Jeffrey?
Your brother Jeff.
Oh, Jeff.
Yes,
now Jeff is the youngest brother.
Yes, and he's here today.
I
think you talked about him on the tricycle.
He's 5 years younger than me.
Yeah. You talked about him in the family picture. You mentioned he was on a tricycle.
He's in that picture. And also in the exhibit, there's an old chair that's sitting there that Mama's holding him as a baby.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting on this right there. No, that's not it.
Another one,
Jeff is, Daddy's holding Jeff. Daddy's holding Jeff. Okay. But there's a picture, that's me down there in between them all. But Jeff is the baby in this chair that it's on the Mountain Soul. It's pictures
so
within the Mountain Soul record.
We have that here too.
And I'm sitting on an old dog that Mama got from Goodwill. And it used to have rollers on it and they'd push. It's right there where I'm like sitting like this, like a little.
Yeah.
I'm posing y'all on my dog. And there's Jeff in Mama's arms in that old chair.
Great.
And I've got that old chair.
No kidding.
Yes.
Well, we might have to make some room.
I've got it at the house. I didn't give that to you. I should have given that to you.
The other thing about this picture is it does show your father coming out of the coal mines. That's him in the right corner.
Yes. Every time that he would come out, and that's him taking his clothes off out on the porch before he would come into the house.
Shaking the coal dust
and
out.
There's many times that one particular place that we didn't have running water, well, it had a pump, and this was the house that Mom and Daddy brought Jeff home to, my brother Jeff. But it was an outhouse. There was no running water except for a pump inside the house. And I was 5 years old, and Mama would always, Daddy would always boil his water, and Mama would put a blanket, it's like this little small door up over the door to where that she'd bring in this old round tub, and fill it with water, and Daddy, he was boiling it. Well, it was getting close to Halloween, and the reason I'm going to tell you this story because this hits home with Daddy too. So I finally got to get my first Halloween outfit, and I was so excited. And I was just jumping up and down, and it wasn't Halloween yet, and I wanted to, show it off and everything. So I was in the kitchen, you know how kids are, running around and I want to show Daddy, and I bumped into him with a kettle of hot water.
Oh.
And they had to run to catch me because there's a scar it was a scar from here all the way down. And it's still there, not as bad, but we didn't go to doctors. So what happened was that Daddy thought it was his fault. It wasn't. It was mine. But I went running and screaming, and they had to run after me to catch me. Because and so when they caught up with me, my Uncle Blake, which was my dad's brother, youngest brother, he brought this salve and stuff and put on and put my arm in a sling, and I had to keep it that way for like 2 months to continue to where it wouldn't scar as bad. That's what we did.
Right.
But
Sure.
Daddy, every time he saw the scar, he would go, "Oh, baby." I said, "It's not your fault, Daddy. It was mine. Just a kid."
Yeah.
So.
And speaking of that, you mentioned moving to Louisville.
Okay. Whew.
How
long we got? 2 hours? Sorry, y'all. He asked me to back up. Well, I'll try to move along here a little faster. Well, so by the time, I think it was around 68, the winter of 68,
December 68, I think, yes.
December 68, Roger and my brother John, they were already living in Louisville, Kentucky. And my sister Dottie was living, she had gotten married by that time, excuse me. Anyway, Roger and Wayne went looking for a home, and also Dicey, which really she's Mama's niece, my cousin, but she came to live with Mom and Daddy. And we always considered her our big sister.
She grew up with
and
you.
And Daddy told us, "Don't you ever forget it."
Right.
She was our first.
She's family and the sister.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, to get all that straight. So they had found a little house to rent in Shively, Kentucky. Is that right, Jeff? Shively. Thank you, Doc. Shively, and so Daddy and my brother John, they drove this old truck. I remember Wayne saying, I call him Wayne, John, but there was no bottom to this truck. It was all cold air coming up on them, and they're driving and moving furniture. And then Dicey's husband, Dallas Toms, comes with his station wagon and has a U-Haul on the back of it and pulling us, and he's in this station wagon, and it's just my brother Mike and me and Jeff, and then Dallas and Mama. Well, Dallas and Mike was up front. Me, Jeff, and Mom were in the back, and we're pulling this trailer and going there, and all of a sudden, and it was snow. You can't believe the snow in those hills. I mean, it used to come, they had these high porches. It used to come all the way up to the porches, I recall. And we were going through those hills, and the U-Haul swerved a little bit and almost went over. And by the time we got to Louisville, Jeff got sick, throwing up in the car. And what a trip, y'all. We're making our way to the big city.
It's like the Kentucky hillbillies, like
we got there,
right? Yeah.
and Jeff was passed out because he was just like, so sick. And Mom, and so we got there. Thankfully, we got there, everything got moved in. But so I didn't get to go because it was December and it was getting close to Christmas, and school was not back in until in January. So I was 10 at that time. So by January 4th, I turned 11, and we're getting ready to go back to school, and it was hard for me because my cousins, the little ones, the smaller, my age and stuff, and my mom's brothers and sisters, and Daddy only had one living sister at that point because she was living in Louisville, Kentucky. All his brothers had passed on, and his mom and dad. So we were going to a place which Daddy had been to Louisville before, to visit Dicey and all of them. So we were going to school, and I'd come home and missing my friends, and it was just not the same in a city school. And fifth grader, hard. So I just kind of got lost in music and listened to the radio, and that was my comfort, or I'd sing at home. When I was doing chores, the boys didn't have to do a thing. I had to wash the dishes and cook. Hey, I learned from the best, my mom. But anyway, you know, I was brought up by even my aunts. It's like, you know, honey, you got a good man, and you take care of that man. I'm like, well, if he'll take care of me, I'll take care of him.
It'd be both ways, right? Yeah, so.
But anyway, that the music started then, and Daddy took interest of, you know, noticing, because he'd love to hear me sing.
Sure.
So to be fair with his children, he wanted to send all of us to learn to play instrument, to play guitar. So my brother Mike, my middle brother, and my younger brother Jeff, well, we went. Well, Jeff went elsewhere. He had no interest at that point. But Mike went in, and I went in, and the music teacher that was giving the guitar lessons, he told Daddy, he said, look, Mike, he really is not, he doesn't have an ear, and he has no interest in this. He says, she has an ear. I think she can learn. And that's where it started.
Yeah.
And so it got to the point, I'll tell this real quick. What happened was I continued taking the lessons, and I had to bring a guitar home. So finally, Daddy saw that I was serious about it. And then when Daddy says, well, I'm going to buy her a guitar. And he bought that Epiphone that's in the exhibit.
Yeah.
And I was 11 years old. So there it is.
Yeah.
And that's what I did around the house, y'all. I'd be out there in the yard barefoot and go around playing. And that's how Roger spotted me. That's my next little singer. But anyway, the guitar, I told Daddy, I said, Daddy, I said, you know, I really want to learn how to play chords. And I felt like I was always in a hurry. Michael, always in a hurry. That's been my life. So I said, look, Daddy, all he wants to do is teach me old McDonald's. And I said, I want to learn Walking After Midnight. I want to learn Don't Come Home a Drinking with Loving on Your Mind. You know? And I wanted, you know, I want to learn these kind of songs. George Jones. You know, it was just Merle Haggard, That's the Way Love Goes. I wanted to learn that. But I was so intense about it. And finally he said, well, honey, you sure? And I said, yeah. I said, Daddy, I can take the book and learn the chords and listen to the records and listen. I can learn. And that's what I did.
Yeah, great.
And so that guitar was with me from the get-go.
Yeah, we've got besides that picture, there's another picture in the exhibit of you playing it, so we can tell it carried with you for a while, and it's so great that you kept it 50-something years later. You
Yes.
have it on exhibit in the Hall of Fame. So it's great.
Yes.
So, which led to you being in the band with Roger, the singing, swinging.
You know, the two of us was called the Singin' Swingin' Rameys.
Yes.
And there was this little group called the Kentucky Moonlighters that we end up doing some work with. There's some pictures of, we would go and do some radio stuff, and then it got to the point it began to grow, and we were doing high schools, opening up for people like the Merle Haggards and you know,
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah.
And so it kept growing, and we were playing clubs. At one point, I was 15 years old, and we were playing Big Mo's nightlife in Louisville, Kentucky. And it was a big, huge club. And what would happen was they had a dance floor that became a stage when the band was performing. But when the band wasn't performing, it would go down. It became a dance floor. Very cool. Hydraulic.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, there was drinking out there. So I was 15, and I was not allowed from behind stage. And I had to stay back there. So it was always, that's the Lincoln Jamboree, that stage is.
Yep.
In Hodgensville, Kentucky. Anybody been there before? Well, say it out, yeah.
And that's the guitar.
Yeah, that's the
Yes,
guitar.
yeah, so-
That's the guitar. And that's with the Hodgensville, that's with the Lincoln Jamboree
Right.
musicians there, great musicians. So that's what we would do, is just kind of the two of us, we'd go and rehearse with these bands and then go out and do our songs. And we'd do 4 or 5 songs, 6 maybe. But it was some wonderful memories. And how I got to Nashville the first time was backing up just a little bit. I was 14 by that time. And Danny King is the DJ that gave us the name, the Singin' Swingin' Rameys. Because he would go and do the MCs for the shows and bring us out and bring us on. And he was a hoot. And somewhere there's a picture of Danny King and Roger in his shirt that I'll share with you later. But Danny, I believe it was the Louisville Gardens. And there was a big show, I think it was like the Opry show. And it was, Connie Smith was on it, Bill Anderson, the Wilburn Brothers, and Gene Shepard was supposed to be the opening act. Well, apparently Gene Shepard got stuck in a flood, couldn't get there. And so that's when Danny called the house and called us up and said, hey, you kids want to come out and just warm the crowd up. Maybe do a few songs or so, just 20 minutes and warm them up. Like just me, the guitar, and Roger.
Wow.
No band.
Yeah.
Y'all, I'm not the greatest guitar player in the world. I'm not. But with Roger, I did okay. I was okay for him.
Yeah, great.
But I did a couple of songs that I wrote. And then we did Burning the Midnight Oil, a Dolly and Porter song they had out. We did Sweet Thing together. Roger did, I believe, Cheatin' Heart. And I'm trying to think. Oh, I did Muse Skinner Blues.
Oh, great.
And the crowd loved it. But while we were performing, Doyle and Teddy Wilburn, the Wilburn brothers, were in the back in their dressing room, and Doyle drags Teddy out. You got to come and hear this girl. Drags him out. You got to hear these kids. And after we got through, we came off stage, and I think they're the last act to go on. So, because they had a TV show and that whole thing going on. So we stood off the side of the stage and talking to them and everything, and they invited us to come to Nashville, and and said, come come play your songs for me, and just like to invite you to come to Surefire. And so we did. It was Wilhelm was the booking agency, and Surefire was the publishing. So it was all combined.
Right.
And so we went. Roger was ready to leave that very night. I think he wanted to jump on their bus and head back to Nashville at that moment, but no do.
Yeah.
So anyway, because I had to be in school.
Yeah.
So we went, I think that weekend, and apparently, I guess the Wilburn brothers didn't think we were going to show up so fast.
Yeah.
That's Roger for you. So we went, and Dicey, my sister, way I feel, and we went, and she drove for us, and we were we went into the Wilburn brothers' Surefire, and they were like, we weren't expecting you.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't know. They're out on the road right now. So we're like, well, no, Roger.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's your fault. And Roger's like, well, they invited us to come here, and they said they want to play some songs for her. They want her to do some stuff and us to do some things. And, you know, Roger, like I said, he could sell ice to the Eskimo. Well, anyway, so it didn't happen. They said, well, you'll have to come back and call the office next time. So we went, and Roger goes, well, let's go take Nashville in. And then Roger goes, no, let's go to Porter Wagner's office. What? Yeah, let's go to Porter Wagner's office. Okay. So Dicey drives us over there to Porter Wagner's. I mean, the Surefire was on 17th Avenue. Opar was on 18th Avenue, just right across from them. So we went over there, and we were welcomed in, Porter, open arms.
That's great.
And he invited us into his office and have a seat. And I didn't have a guitar with me at that time. So he handed me his guitar. He says, can you play this? And I played him a couple of songs I wrote. And he says, wow, that's good. He says, how long are you kids in town? I said, well, we're probably going to have to get back. And so finally, he said, well, you know, we're taping our TV show tonight, today, this afternoon. You guys want to come on out and meet Dolly? And so, you know, I'm in awe of Porter and Dolly both. So, because the whole show I've been watching, and her. So anyway, yeah. Now that picture's at the Opry. That's the rest of the story. So we go to the TV tape.
Same night, though. Same day? It's okay.
And that was backstage at the Opry the same night.
Okay.
So after the TV taping, Porter says, hey, why don't y'all stay and y'all can go see us at the Opry. And we're like, well, sister's got to get back to work. And he goes, you know what? I'll put you up in a hotel, and I'll get you a bus ticket back home. And Dicey went back home to work, and we stayed, and we went as guests at the Opry, and Dolly and Porter, and I remember seeing Dolly. There was one restroom that the girls were able to go, because there was only one rehearsal room. This was at the Ryman. Only one room where they rehearsed. And then the women's room was on the far side, and you went on the far side, and I went into the restroom with Dolly, and I'd watch her put makeup on and touch herself up. I just couldn't take my eyes off that woman. She didn't need no makeup, but she loved it. And she became a big sister to me.
Yeah.
I love her to death, always.
That's so good. So at some point, the Wilburns start inviting you to...
The Wilburns come back into the picture. Well, what happened, by the time I was 15, Dolly was still with Porter. So Roger's idea, he has these wheels turning. You know, the Wilburn brothers, Loretta's leaving the Wilburn brothers, have left the Wilburn brothers almost at that point. And he goes, you know, they really need a singer. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And I felt bad, because I felt torn, but Porter he was happy for me, whatever happened. So the Wilburn brothers took me, and I ended up signing with Surefire Publishing and with Wilburn brothers, and we ended up, when I turned 18, after I graduated, because I was touring as a 15, 16, 17 years old with the Wilburn brothers, and it was a little band that would back them. But by the time I was 18, there was a group. Yeah, there's that picture of me with the guitar, and there's Doyle, and that's Randy right there, one of the guys playing with us. A lot of great memories.
Yeah.
Doyle was always watching me like a hawk.
Yeah.
He was very
Good.
firm.
Good.
Yeah. Teddy was always saying, "Lighten up, bruh." But she's a teenager. So he was always firm with me. But what happened was that I joined with them, and by the time I was 18 and I graduated, Roger at that point was already living in Nashville with his roommate. So I ended up moving in with them. And lo and behold, it was an apartment on 18th Avenue across from Old Park. And also Doyle was living in that same apartment up on the hill right over from Roger and us. And it was a little old bitty small apartment. And so it was so great. So this band that was formed called the AmeriCountry Express, it was formed by Jimmy Helms, who was that's Jimmy on the bottom row there. Help me out, Michael. He's the heavier set guy with the gray shirt on. I'm kind of looking. But Jimmy Helms was Don Helms'
son, right?
Yeah, yes. Don Helms' son, who was
Hank
a
Williams.
partner of the Wilburn brothers.
And Don Helms was Hank Williams, the steel guitar player, and played on Walking After Midnight and lots of Loretta songs.
But anyway, Jimmy was his son, and on top of that, Paul White is the other guy, and he was from North Carolina. And all those guys standing in the back are from North Carolina. So that was the band that was formed, AmeriCountry Express, and they hired me to be the girl singer. So when the Wilburn brothers were out on the road, I was 18, we would go out with this band, and that's how I met Terry Lovelace. It was Lovelace, not Loveless.
Yeah.
Lovelace.
Yeah.
I changed the name when I became Loveless.
Yeah.
But we worked out together, and so when the Wilburn brothers would come out, it was the whole group. I was the girl singer, and voila, it worked. It was great out on the road, and it was really clicking.
Yeah.
So, but now this was in 75. So in 76, 1976, this foolish girl, my heart got me in trouble again. But anyway, in 1976, on my birthday, January 4th, Terry is living in North Carolina, Kings Mountain, North Carolina, and he drives his old van, comes and picks me up, and I end up running off with Terry. But I tell you, it was an emotional night.
Sure.
And Doyle still tried to get me back. And what I did was I went to North Carolina and lived a life, learned a lot about people, and I think even more than I could ever learn, because I was always so protected by family, by brothers, by sisters, by Doyle, by Teddy, that was always light on me, always.
Sure.
But I think I was 19 at that point. I turned 19, and I just was a sort of a rebel. And Mom and Daddy knew I was different. You know, they always had to come tracking me down sometimes. You know, just because I like to stay out late a little bit. But Hey, I was a good kid, though. I didn't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I just like being out with friends and having fun. One old boy just kept me out too late, got in trouble. But anyway, so I learned a lot about life, working in a lot of crazy clubs. I've worked in speakeasies.
Which would stay open to,
They'd sometimes stay open till 4 and 6 o'clock in the morning. And speakeasies were, you know, it was against the law.
yeah.
But it was a big, huge warehouse club, and it was always full. And we were the band. And we were always, it was just, I saw so many walks of life. There was a lot of people that I called the graveyard shift, that whenever they would get off from work, before going home, they would stop at the club to hear music, just unwind before going home, before they had to work the next hours. And so that's the kind of clientele that we drew in. And yeah, the club was raided one time, that one was, and I ended up being arrested. You know why? You know why? Because they arrested me for aiding and abetting because I was singing in a band. I'm serious.
Keeping those people up late at night, you know? So.
Are you kidding me? Now that was around 78.
Yeah. We missed getting your mugshot.
I was way past 19, 78. No mugshot. No mugshot. They just knew how to round us up because they were watching us. So they knew that we had to go back in and play again. They were like, we're going to keep you up late so you'll be really sleepy next night. But they closed us down for one night and back to work again.
Yeah, sure. So now,
They just paid them off.
we talked about how Roger got you back to, you know, earlier you talked about the Roger gets you back to
As
1985.
time moves on, a lot
so-
of these clubs start shutting down. And so we started, Terry and I started plugging into some other he was a drummer, and of course, we started going into some other acts, and that's when he started getting me more into pop music, rock and roll. And I'll never forget this first band, their girl singer didn't show up. So, and this was pop, rock and roll blend. And she didn't show up, and he's like, hey, she sings, my wife sings. And I'm like, what? Not this. And he went, yeah, she sings. So I did some Linda Ronstadt, long time. I did You're So Good. I did, so many.
You said Bonnie Raitt, maybe. And,
I did Bonnie Raitt. I did, I'm so sorry. Songs
No,
are,
that's good, yeah.
you know, I got so much to tell y'all. And it just runs together after a while. But I did a lot of songs that, I love Linda Ronstadt. I love Bonnie Raitt. And I was doing some kind of blues stuff too at the time. But, and I did this one, Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow? Will you still love me tomorrow? Well, Linda Ronstadt was doing that, and I did it, and the band went, yeah, man, she can sing. Take this list of songs and learn them. And I mean, it was rock and roll. And I was the only one that could sing high enough to do some of these rock and roll songs, like Journey and all this stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Woo! I mean, Donna, Hot Stuff.
Oh, yeah, Donna Summer. Yeah,
Donna
sure,
Summer.
sure,
I was doing that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a blend of disco, rock and roll, country. I Will Always Love You. I was doing that. I mean, I was doing a lot.
Yeah.
And it just, the people loved it. So,
Of
hey,
course they did. You
that's
sang
how it was formed.
Yeah, so,
So when I told Roger that we were doing the country stuff, country club again, I said, you know, people are asking me to do the Judds, Randy Travis, you know, Mama, He's Crazy. Why not me? And I said, Roger, what's going on? He goes, it's coming back around. They love the traditional stuff right now. And he goes, it's coming back around. It's really popular. And I was like, oh, really? So he talked me into coming back in '85 to do that demo, and that's what happened.
Then there it goes, and took off from
And
there.
there it
So,
goes.
so those early years in MCA, you talked about the first album having a little trouble once the I Did thing happened. But by the second album, if My Heart Had Windows, you had a top 10 hit with the title song. You had a number 2 song with Steve Earle's A Little Bit of Love. So things started rolling. Then by Honky Tonk Angels, you have 2 number 1 hits. So what was that like? All of a sudden, everything's coming at you. Your star is rising. So.
It's coming real fast, and by 1990, Roger and myself, it got really difficult. Sometimes the business doesn't understand family all and how it works. The passion that family.
Roger was your manager.
I mean, he was my first big, huge fan.
Of course. Yeah.
And sometimes it's difficult for people in business sense that doesn't quite get that, and they can be tough on you. And it's that I could see it happening, and it was really difficult. And I finally had to make a decision that Roger and I had to go separate ways. It was very hurtful. I cried many tears. Even the first time I left Nashville, I cried many tears in front of Roger, and I cried all the way to North Carolina in 1976. And here I am, again, and it was so difficult. And the whole family was crushed, of course, and torn. But we, as family, we stuck together and tried to understand and try to heal, prayed a lot. So that's when Fitzgerald Hartley became my management in '90, right after, like, that summer. And then my last album for
MCA,
Epic,
yeah.
MCA was Up Against My Heart.
Right.
And Hurt Me Bad in a Real Good Way was on that record. Jealous Bone.
Great Matraca Berg song, yes.
But it's...
Hurt Me Bad was a Debbie Allen song, that's right, wasn't it? So.
But I felt that something was happening, and I felt that MCA might have been losing a little interest there.
Yeah.
It was starting to happen, and it was scary. But then my voice was getting kind of rough. But anyhow, I was still kicking butt, trying to be out there on the road, doing what I had to do, but still all the emotion and choking from all the crying and everything else and stressing out of all the breakups.
Yeah.
I think it finally got to my voice. And all the interviews you had to do, I hated doing interviews before singing. That's how I wanted to sing today.
Yeah. Well, especially in the 1990s when the country is so hot,
hard.
There's so much media out there that
It was. Yeah. And when you went to Europe, that was the only way, was media. So, but I was busting butt. So anyhow, I was trying to make a decision about getting off the label. And I said, I think I need to leave. And because I just felt it, that if you don't want me, let me go. And that's a song that Emory wrote that I ended up doing on Up Against My Heart.
Yeah.
If you don't want me, if you don't love me, let me
goodbye
go.
song, yeah. So.
Yeah. And it was really about me that he co-wrote. And the thing of it is that I made the decision, and again, it tore me apart because I love Tony Brown to death. And at that point, Emory had moved on. That was the last record he did, was Up Against My Heart.
He wasn't working on your records anymore.
He was on Up Against My Heart. He was on that one.
He did come back,
He came back into the picture. He was on...
the first 2 albums, I think.
Yeah, the first 2 albums, and he was on that last.
Right.
So he was working on, I think, George Jones, trying to get him ready to go into the studio. And actually, we did go into the studio, and Vince and I went in to sing on George's record. Mutt Lange wanted to come in and sit in on Emory and watch how he made records.
Wow, there you go.
Country
Mutt Lange,
records.
Mutt Lange produced all the Shania Twain albums for those
Yeah,
who
I
don't
mean,
know. Yeah,
well, Tony,
so-
produced, was married to Shania.
Yeah, she had that too.
Well, anyway, it was all during that fanfare in '92. So, y'all didn't know that, did you? So, in '92, and so it was fanfare during that time that, because Garth Brooks came in and sung I Don't Need Your Rocking Chair.
Yep, yep.
And
George
it was
Jones song,
Garth
yes.
and Mel Tillis and, Pam Tillis and Vince Gill was singing on it. That was the fanfare 86 or 85 or 86, 85, I think. That's when we were walking around.
You hadn't met him.
I hadn't met Vince at
Yeah.
that point. That was the first time I met him. Should I back up on that one?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Because we're actually,
Hold that picture. Hold that
we're
thought.
actually right at the end of time where we can push it a little bit. But,
Okay.
we need to get you through a little more. So, yes.
So, where was I, Michael?
You were 90s, and I don't need
92.
I don't need no rocking chair.
I don't need no rocking chair.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we went in, and so Vince knew that I was leaving MCA, because we had thought about doing a record together at that point. And we're like, I said, gosh, Vince, I think this is really going to screw everything up now.
Yeah.
And sadly, because, you have one label against
Yeah,
another.
because Vince is on MCA.
It's hard to
so,
combine
yeah,
them.
Right.
And so what happened was in '92, I ended up going with Epic. And from that point, I was getting ready to go back out on the road during the summer. And '92, in October '92, there was a lot going on. We were doing the women's show out there in Murfreesboro.
Right. Women in country
and
music, yes.
That's when I was seeing the doctor. I was losing my voice. And so Larry Fitzgerald, bless his heart, had to go to the doctor's office with me. I had to take a break to get meds and stuff in order to do that show, to get through it, because I was losing my voice. And I went back. Kathy Mattea had already had
Right.
vocal cord
and
surgery.
the same doctor, right. So,
And she was on that show too. So she got it, what was going on. So I went back to the same Dr. Ozoff. So Dr. Ozoff, he's sitting there and talking to my management. Oh, no, he was talking to me. And Larry was out in the waiting room. Well, he's talking to me and he's looking at my voice, and I have this that's about to burst on one of my lip nodes and vocal cords. It was about to burst. And he said, it's about to go, and you need surgery. I said, I can't. I don't have time right now. He goes, you better make time. I said, I don't. I said, I've got a tour after this coming up, and I can't do it. And he goes, I said, I've got a band to support. I've got people to support. He goes, I'm telling you, it's going to go.
yeah.
And you're not going to have it at all. And so I said, well, tell my manager that. And he went, where is he? I said, he's out there in the lobby. He said, get him in here. Got him in there, and he chewed Larry out. Larry's face turned red, and just like, Larry could tell you the story. And like, he goes, I don't know why he got on to me for it. And I said, well, because he knew he could get to you, not to me. Because I was not going to say, nope, I got to keep going. Larry was the only one to stop me. And when Larry heard him, he said, look, she's not going to have a voice if she keeps going. So he got me through the show. After the show was over, we had a meeting the next day, and then we started with the booking agent, my publicist, Larry, the Fitzgerald Hartley, everybody, the band. We were on phone calls and everything around a round table, and started canceling everything. Because this was, I think, I'm thinking August, I was supposed to be going out for out west
That whole
for a
tour,
whole
yeah,
month.
yeah.
And so in October is when I had my vocal cord surgery. And so I wasn't allowed to sing, not allowed to talk for a month, not allowed to talk. So Emory's like, well, I'll know where you can rest. I'm going to take you to the house in Georgia, little old bitty house in Georgia. We slept on a roll-out couch.
That's the previous house, because the new one
No,
is
no,
not
no,
so
it's
small.
nothing like that. I mean, this was 1,100 square feet.
Yeah, okay, good, okay.
We didn't even have a bedroom, y'all. We had a rolled-out couch.
That's
I said,
it,
I feel
yeah.
like I'm sleeping on the bus. But, and what happened was, it was secluded and laid back. And I will never forget, I was washing a mirror, and I had laid it on the floor. And Emory come walking, and I like, all of a sudden it came out of my mouth. I was like, ah! And he was like, don't do that. And I said, you're going to step on the glass. He went, you're not supposed to speak.
Yeah,
I said, but I can. I can.
yeah.
And
yeah.
that's when I felt, and he goes, well, no more.
But the great thing is from there, you came back, you felt like your voice was as good as it had ever been, is that correct?
Emory will tell you,
Yeah.
they had to start pulling the faders because the very first song that we did when I got back into the studio was Blame It On Your Heart.
Well,
And the doctors were there to hear it.
yeah.
The vocal coach that brought me back in to slowly get me back into singing. And then Tom Cleveland. And then also Dr. Ozol. They were all there. And he says, boy, she can sing, can't she? I like the way she says that, oh, baby. Baby. Dr. Ozol.
Yeah,
He got
yeah,
it.
great.
But, yeah, Emory
And
can
then-
tell you, the engineer and everything's like, oh, my God.
Yeah, that's so good.
The voice was strong
Yeah.
again.
And from there, you had really, I think,
Oh,
the
it
hottest
just-
streak of your career from 92 into 98.
Blame It
or
On
so,
Your Heart
yeah.
was the one. And,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, radio didn't want to let go of it. And the second single we released from that album was Nothing But the Wheel, which was one of my favorites. Yeah, yeah. John Scott Sherrill. Oh my God. And what happened was that we released that as a single. You know, they always liked up-tempo stuff anyway.
Yeah.
But this was such a classic country song to
Harlan
me.
Howard and
It's
Costas,
so
yeah.
visual, you know, you can close your eyes and hear every word and it paints a picture, and that's the songs I love.
Yeah.
And it's about real life, you know, real people. So we released that, and because it went over big with the audience out there on the road. So we just felt strong about it. And Blame It On Your Heart, the radio wasn't ready to drop Blame It On Your Heart. So Nothing But the Wheel struggled because of that. I was in competition with
Right.
my own record.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. But you had 4 hits on the album. You
Well,
know,
Blame It On
and
Your Heart
right, yes,
became Song of
Yeah.
the Year for.
Yep. And by 96, you're a Female Vocalist of the Year. In a year that you're up against Shania Twain, Faith Hill,
Yeah.
Pam Tillis.
my-
You know, yeah.
So all these things that happens to me over the years, though, Michael, like I was telling you earlier, is that it seems like, I don't know, I have to go through something in order to put it into the music, into the song. Like, How Can I Help You Say Goodbye?
Yeah.
And in 96, when I won Female Vocalist, 96, June 29th in 96, I lost my sister Dottie, who I looked up to. She was a better singer than me, I thought, to tell you the truth. I used to love to sing harmony with her. But she passed away at the age of 48. And she This was June 29th, 96. So I went out on the road, and I was out with Vince and all of that. And I remember that I was on stage, I believe it was in Ohio, and I was going out to sing the song, and it was in the list, "How Can I Help You Say Goodbye?" And I thought, oh my God, no. And I could never do that song anymore from that, because I started crying on stage. And that was it. I couldn't make it through, but I could see people trying to help me through it. So I stopped doing the song for a long, long time after that. But in August 96, added to everything else, Emory almost dies on me.
Oh.
He's called in for emergency. He had a splenectomy and also pancreatitis. And I was all the way out in San Diego, California, and the doctor is saying, you need to come in. And here again, I had to shut everything down to come off the road and get back to Nashville for my husband. Chuck Flood, I was talking about earlier, he's the one that met me at the airport, and he sat with Emory the whole time before I got there, came and got me at the airport, took me directly to the hospital to be with Emory.
So it's a friend
And
there. Yeah,
he almost died.
Yeah.
He truly almost died.
Yeah.
So when I won Female Vocalist in
Wow.
96,
Yeah.
Emory was recovering, and he wasn't able again to be at the show. And when I won that award, Roger was not in good health. And of course, we'd lost our sister, and we all were going through a lot of emotions.
Sure.
So, y'all, that's why I guess I sing the way I do.
Yeah.
And the songs I sing, it's about my life.
Well,
So
again, the
there
truth.
you go.
Yeah, and I think, and you're so good at putting emotion into songs, and that's what we all listen to music for in the long run. And that was to connect with those emotions.
This next song I'd like to share with you. Through the years, there's been a lot of songs that were selected for singles. The label goes, hey, we got to go with this one. Well, why can't it be this one? Well, because we need up-tempo, da-da-da. I said, okay. Well, I'm going to do this one for myself then. And Stephen Bruton wrote this song. And when I first heard it, it touched my heart so much. And the reason I want to share this song with you, because it does mean a whole lot to me. I lived many years here in Nashville, 20 years, actually, before I had to tell it to Georgia. I might just come back, y'all. But, this song, Stephen Bruton, he died of cancer many, many, many years ago. I'm trying to remember exactly. And I remember going to see him in Austin, Texas, at a little old one of those clubs you just walk in. And me and Tom Britt, who was my guitar player out on the road, he goes, hey, Stephen's playing tonight. Let's go. I said, absolutely. And here's me and Tom getting a taxi and heading over there. I guess it was a taxi. I don't remember. I just depended on Tom to get me there. But we got there, and it was a great show. And Stephen Bruton, he's played with Bonnie Raitt. He's done so much over the years. But here is the words of Stephen Bruton. And one other thing I want to tell you. The reason the song means so much to me, listen closely to the lyrics, and I think you'll understand why. Too many memories. I remember this town and love by my side, and a peace seldom failed in this day and time. And in gets melancholy every now and again. When you let your mind go and it drifts way back when life plays its tricks. Some cruel but fair, and even a fool can pretend they don't care. When there's too many memories for one heart to hold, once a future so bright now seems so distant and cold, and the shadows grow long and your eyes look so old. When there's too many memories for one heart to hold. There are those moments, and they just never fade, like the look in his eyes and the way the light played. God moved in that moment, and the angels all cried, and they gave you a memory that you'll have till you die. Now the lessons you learn, and you don't dare forget. What makes you grow old is replacing hope with regret. When there's too many memories for one heart to hold, once a future so bright now seems so distant and cold, and the shadows grow long and your eyes look so old. When there's too many memories for one heart to hold, when there's too many memories for one heart to hold, once a future so bright now seems so distant and cold, and the shadows grow long and your eyes look so old. When there's too many memories for one heart to hold. What'd you think about that song, huh? It should have been on radio, right? But then as the years went on, we got the opportunity to do a record called Mountain Soul.
That's right.
And it was an addition. You know, we did that actually, when we got in there, Emory was producing, and you had Carmella and Deanie Richardson, who was out here with me, and Tim Hensley, who played with me for years, played banjo and a mandolin and guitar, and sang with me on a lot of my records as well with Carmella. And Tim, after he left, I ended up getting another guitar player. He didn't really want to leave me, but I said, Tim, I'm ready to just kind of lay low for a while. So he ended up going with Kenny Chesney.
It was Kenny Chesney for years, yes.
And
Yeah.
until the very end with
Until
Kenny
he
Chesney.
passed away too. Yes.
Yeah, and he died too young.
Yeah.
Tim was only 51 when he passed away.
Yeah.
And that was a great loss too.
Yeah. And I've talked to
But-
Kenny about it. I know Kenny loved it
But
too.
this album, we recorded a lot of it at Hound's Ear, and Justin Ebanks was producing too, not producing, he was engineering, and doing the mixing. So it was rough, just rough stuff. We acoustically, and so it was just like getting around a mic and just doing it. That it was a special record because we were doing this kind of thing out on the road. We mixing it up a little bit, and the audience was loving it out in California. They were into it. So we ended up doing this record and recording it in 2000. And Emory kept questioning. He's going, I don't know what I've done. I don't know if this is going to work. And, we did Never Leave Harlan Alive and all this on this record. Yeah. And it was just like a band got together and we're playing in the studio. And I thought we were just doing it for fun, and we were doing it for the people, and it was just an addition to whatever I was doing. It didn't matter how much it sold to me, but to Emory it was important. And it was important. It was important to share it with the people. So what happened was we turned it in, and Margie Hunt over there
With Epic Records,
at Epic Records at the time, she says, stop what you're doing, lay everything down, and come and listen to this record. And she busted butt. She was responsible for doing the videos, getting us back there in Stone, Kentucky to do the video and everything else for it. That lady. But you know what? Some of the guys I met the other day from the old Epic days, they were like, man, it's still our favorite record. Go figure.
Yeah. They got on forever.
Yeah, they loved it.
Yeah.
So it was, and then Oh Brother Where Art Thou came out, and A Man of Constant Sorrow we did on this record, but we had done it at the Stanley Brothers Festival, and because we were doing a lot of that. Yeah. And what happened was, I went to a Bruce Springsteen concert in 2000, and gosh, this is terrible. I'm trying to remember who was at MCA at the time. It'll come back to me. But anyway, he was president of MCA at that point. And so he came to us and he said, look, gosh, Patty, he says, have you heard this Oh Brother Where Art Thou, that kind of music that you guys have been doing? And I said, yeah, no. And he goes, well, I'm doing this whole record with them. And it's the Stone, what do you call them? Soggy Bottom Boys, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Soggy Bottom Boys.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay, whatever. So, and he's during this whole Bruce Springsteen meet and greet stuff. And Bruce is saying, that George Jones song, You Don't Seem to Miss Me, and I didn't want to say, that was my song and George sang on it. That's my record. But I wasn't going to mess it up. Bruce Springsteen loved that song.
Oh, good.
And a good one.
Yeah.
George made it.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, so lo and behold, after all is said and done, I'm at the house taking a break around Christmas because Emory's still in Nashville. And I've gone to the house, and we're still living at 1,100 square foot. And I'm getting the Christmas tree and all the decorations ready. Well, I'm sitting there, and I'm watching the video. And I called Deanie Richardson up. And I hear Constant Sorrow, Man of Constant Sorrow, and it's already on my record.
Yeah.
And I called Deanie up, and it didn't click right away. And I went, Deanie, who are these Soggy Bottom Boys? And she said, Dan Tominski. And I went, what?
Yeah. There you go.
There you go.
But the timing was good. The timing was perfect.
It was perfect.
So, so,
it really worked.
Yeah.
I think it's time to pick things up. And you know what? I know you're dying to stretch your legs, aren't you? Okay, come on, y'all. If you can, be courteous to the person that can't stand, though. Hope you're not standing in front of somebody that can't stand. Maybe they can stand on your shoulders. We're going to have some fun, y'all. But I got to teach you the words first because you're going to sing with me. No, yeah. Okay, the words are, listen up. This is what you'll sing. Blame it on your line, cheating, code, deadbeating, two-time a dibbing.
Me Mistreating Loving Heart. You get all that? All right. You've got a thing or two to learn about me, baby. Well, I ain't taking it no more, and I don't mean maybe. You don't know right from wrong. Well, the love we had is gone. So blame it on your lying, cheating, cold, deadbeating, two-time love dealing, mean, mistreating, loving hard. Yeah. Well, all I wanted was to be your one and only, and all I ever got from you was being lonely. Now that dream is laid to rest, 'cause you have failed the test. So blame it on your lying, cheating, cold, deadbeat, two-time and double dealing, me mistreating, loving hard. Are you heading for a heartache? Oh yeah, gonna get a bad break. Oh yeah, you made a bad mistake. Oh yeah, well you're never gonna find another lover. Someone's gonna do you like you done me, honey. And when she does you like she'll do you, it ain't funny. You need some sympathy, but don't be calling me. Yeah, blame it on your lying, cheating, cold, deadbeating, two-time and double dealing, me mistreating, loving hard. Ah, shake it off now. Jedd Hughes, y'all. Are you heading for a heartache? Oh yeah, gonna get a bad break. Oh yeah, you made a bad mistake. Oh yeah, well you're never gonna find another lover. Someone's gonna do you like you done me, honey. Now when she does you like she'll do you, it ain't funny. You need some sympathy, but don't be calling me. Yeah, blame it on your lying, cheating, cold, deadbeating, two-time and double dealing, mean, mistreating, loving hard. Yeah, blame it on your lying, cheating, cold, deadbeating, two-time and double dealing, mean, mistreating, loving hard. Miss Deanie Richardson over there on fiddle, mandolin, and also she's with Sister Sadie. Remember that group? Woo, they're up for a lot this year in the awards. Mr. Jedd Hughes on acoustic guitar. And then once again, Miss Carmella Ramsey on fiddle, mandolin, vocals. Y'all, we've been many miles together, and I miss these people up here. I miss them with all my heart, and I don't know what I would have done without them out there on the road. They kept me straight. We did? I try to keep y'all straight, but you turned it around on me. Love y'all.